Fallout New Vegas accomplished something very few spin-offs in any entertainment genre does by surpassing a majority of its predecessors and even its successors. Headed by Obsidian Entertainment, the same studio responsible for the phenomenal Fallout 2, New Vegas mixed the best aspects of the most heralded entries in the franchise then thus far. A great amount of choices that dictated the narrative's conclusion, as seen in Fallout 2, and the 3D environments rooted in the first-person shooting genre from Fallout 3. Through financial troubles and their ideas being funded by loyal fans, Obsidian thrived when lesser studios would have faltered, giving birth to the Fallout experience fans have wanted since New Vegas without the Fallout name attached. Journalists and fans alike were promoting the Outer Worlds as Fallout in space, and I was incredibly excited to see if it was true. Similar to many open-world role-playing games before it, The Outer Worlds gives a sense of freedom to explore and dictate what the player wants to accomplish. But the point of every RPG is the story, which in this game's case kicks off with a prologue of sorts, as the player is made to craft a male or female character to unknowingly send that person into the world of tomorrow, a world completely different than what history foretold, as the lacking death of U.S. President William McKinley set forth a society completely coddled by mega corporations that began terraforming alien planets. It is up to the player, having been awoken by the mad scientist Phineas Wells, to save the planet currently being inhabited by a majority of what would be called human beings from utter internal destruction. For those experienced with the 7th and 8th generation Fallout games, The Outer Worlds is close to familiar territory as one can get, with a first-person perspective, quests aplenty, and the ability to mold a created character in almost any way the player sees fit. After 30 plus hours, my mostly well-rounded hero with a gift of gab made the toughest decision possible that would potentially shape the existence of the planet Halcyon, well beyond the stranger's existence. Going back to a previous save, I took the chance to be evil and perform a little bit of genocide to discover that the results of my actions can truly be presented in black and white compared to a lot of the other choices seen throughout the game. Considering the level of customization and of course lack of knowledge in regards to certain scenarios, this game just screams for another playthrough, especially on a harder than normal difficulty. Though not a Fallout game in name, the gameplay of The Outer Worlds borrows heavily from its obvious inspiration. After the rather quick introduction featuring an explanation of dialogue trees, overall gunplay, and the requirement to investigate everything from containers to dead bodies for usable items and junk alike, the game introduces its version of VATS, with the Tactical Time Dilation system. When in the heat of battle, TTD doesn't stop time completely like VATS did in Fallout 3 or New Vegas, only slowing time down so the player can hit a specific region on an enemy that are usually specific to various enemies, such as robots sporting glowing blue orbs or containers. Depending on the weapon used, hitting a particular weak spot can stagger and stun an adversary, electrocute them, or even afflict them with corrosion. Combat outside of TTD isn't much different than what was seen a generation ago, with a first-person presentation featuring a plethora of weapons that can be modified at workbenches placed around the multiple worlds available. Adding mods such as better damage and even elemental properties can turn a low-level item into something the player will be using throughout their experience. Players can also repair and tinker with both weapons and armor in their inventory, with each fix and minor upgrade respectively costing bits usually found in containers, fallen enemies, and by completing a majority of the game's missions. The overall combat isn't as profound or polished as some of its dedicated to FPS contemporaries, but works perfectly well for the entire game. Character customization is a big thing in The Outer Worlds, thanks to a pretty hefty skill tree and perk system, with the latter being associated with points that are only given to the player every couple of levels, instead of at every level increase like skill points. One of the most interesting aspects connected to the character customization are flaws that pop up randomly after usually stressful moments for the protagonist, like being continuously attacked by a particular animal or jumping from high places. Each accepted flaw by the player will slightly hinder the character overall, like losing a point of perception to gain a much lauded perk point. Skills such as melee, dialogue, and leadership all have subcategories, like one-handed melee, persuade, and inspiration, with these subcategories being leveled up at the same time if the player chooses to put their gain points in the main skill category, until said subcategories reach level 50. To reach a max of 100 in any particular subcategory will take planning and doing more than just the main quest. For every 20 points in a particular subcategory, there's an added benefit to said skill, including reducing sway on guns and taking less resources to pick locks. One of the greatest benefits to the player's character are companions. With up to 6 recruitable companions, the player can take 2 at a time into the wild, with each one boosting particular skills, like the earliest buddy providing mechanical proficiency and kind nature helping the player's overall engineering and persuade skills. Each companion has their own perk tree that isn't as robust as the protagonist's, but has some must-have perks that makes the experience that much more enjoyable when the bullets fly, including one of the highest level perks being available for every companion, allowing for an immediate resurrection when downed. Each companion has a special ability that can be activated in battle. Depending on the companion, some of their attacks can provide one-hit kills due to elemental damage, or stun an opponent long enough for the player to hit that finishing blow. Obsidian did a great job balancing the companions, with all having strong and weak properties, that forces the player to switch them in and out depending on the situation. In regards to quest, a majority of the story opportunities, both minor and major, aren't much different in regards to the overall presentation seen in other games in the genre. Fetch quests, assassinations, and sneaking around in disguises are all here, with little to differentiate them from one another. What makes a majority of the quests so compelling is the option for completion being solely up to the player. Turning almost every mission into a bloodbath or a heated debate is actually viable right until the very end. The dialogue options range from obvious to vague, without the player feeling like their word choice has been misconstrued. The explorable universe features multiple differently designed worlds, including those colonized by humans at odds with other townships, and planets simply housing rock-throwing super primates. Unfortunately, a majority of the latter worlds aren't as remarkable as the first 2 or 3 stops. Thanks to some incredibly well-written dialogue and terrific voice acting, a majority of the NPCs encountered throughout a playthrough will leave a lasting mark on the player, even if the missions themselves fail to be remarkable. From a narrative perspective, the Outer World provides the player a great opportunity to experiment, forming and destroying relationships that can positively or negatively affect people both far and near. Thanks to a lack of morality system, it's up to the player to shape their character's impact on the plot, even if it means slaughtering anyone that crosses the stranger's path. The main story isn't particularly revolutionary, but is presented at a stellar time in society that can create a debate amongst the politically and socio-economically charged. With so much going on in this open world offering, it's actually shocking how polished the experience is, not crashing once while featuring only a few frame rate drops during some of the more hefty firefights for yours truly. The game's biggest issues are definitely things that can be fixed, including a lack of hit indication while in battle. Another gameplay issue is the ineffectiveness of stealth. Stealth kills are incredibly rare, and sneaking around usually doesn't benefit the player in the long run. Though the game does look so much more colorful than a stereotypical Fallout game, the oversaturation of certain colors like green and purple can prevent the player from seeing certain opportunities in battle, like shooting acidic barrels in the distance. Lip syncing is definitely hit and miss depending on the NPC as well. The Outer Worlds, in a lot of ways, is exactly the experience one should expect from an Obsidian-headed game, wearing its obvious influences on its sleeve. This deserves to be played by any RPG fan who likes a little first-person shooting in their action. While it may sound like a disservice to state the Outer Worlds is Fallout in space, a majority of the Outer Worlds experience feels just like that, right down to the protagonist's presentation, quest structure, communication and dialogue options, and overall gameplay. Thankfully, all of the Fallout-esque aspects are done expertly well, with a satisfying quest set matching the overall combat and character customization options. The same grandiose positive feeling gamers had playing New Vegas will return here, and then some, mostly thanks to the dialogue options that may or may not turn a narrative opportunity on its head. There's no reason a fan of the 7th generation Fallout games, or first-person shooting RPGs in general, shouldn't give this game a purchase, especially when it feels like you've truly taken command of a situation, or even helped the most awkward person fall in love.
I just got a lot of feelings, Captain, and they're all climbing up my throat. I need another drink. Right now. Before I lose my nerve. Come on, Captain. I'm here to drink. Okay, maybe you're right. I am a little woozy.